I feel like the luckiest girl in America and Canada and Mars.
I know that this is like my true purpose.
That keeps me as a creator on my toes.
Whatever this is, I want in on it.
Hey, it's Kat Callahan, aka Jessie, the voice from TikTok. And Etalk Presents Influenced begins right now.
Hi everyone, we've got a super fun show for you tonight as we shine a light on the influencers who are killing it online and IRL.
Yeah, from ruling social media or using it as a launchpad to Hollywood, these names should be on your radar if they're not already.
And there's a good chance they are. With millions upon millions of followers, these creators carved out their own lane, but behind every one of them is fascinating story.
Yeah, which brings us to Alex Cooper, host of Call Her Daddy, one of the most popular podcasts in the world.
Last year, she made history, landing a reported $60 million deal with Spotify, and she's got very loyal fans.
I feel like you've just gone through this incredible rise, and we've just been watching you and cheering you along. So how does it feel to have such a dedicated fan base called the Daddy Gang?
I care so much about them, and they completely are a huge part of the show, and they dictate what I'm going to be doing in the show. I feel like that's something that makes Call Her Daddy very unique, is like they are just as much a part of the show as I am.
The Call Her Daddy podcast recently made big headlines thanks to Hailey Bieber, who spoke about the elephant in the room, Selena Gomez.
A lot of the hate and the perpetuation comes from like, oh, you stole him. And I guess maybe that just comes from like the fact that they wished that like he had ended up with someone else, but that's just not the case.
Now, you interviewed Hailey Bieber, and that interview was everywhere. What was it like, and how did you feel to let her tell her side of the story?
I think she's truly an incredible person, and I think that in social media, sometimes we really only get little quick snap parts of people, and getting to sit down with her and really trying to help humanize her, I think was just a really incredible experience, and I have so much respect for her.
After Selena's comments about Justin and her new doc and a photo op with Hailey, that elephant in the room isn't going anywhere. But Alex wants everyone to remember a key point. You don't always have the full story.
So to prejudge people or to online bully people based off of something that you think you read in an article or you think you know, we don't know what's going on in people's relationships, and I think it's important to kind of just stay out of those.
Providing a safe space on her show is a priority, but so is confronting everyday issues that impact women, no matter how polarizing or politicized.
I'm currently on my way to a preferred women's health center where women in Charlotte, North Carolina get abortions. If there's one episode of Call Her Daddy that people should watch and listen to, it's this one.
Why is it so important for you to give women a platform to tell these stories and to have these discussions?
It didn't feel right to not address something that so immediately impacts me as a woman, other people that listen to this show. Like, this is essentially an attack on women. So it was important for me, knowing how many women listen to my podcast. I was like, I need to get this right, and I need to take my time, and I need to be educated on the topic.
Honestly, I love that podcast, and Alex is everywhere these days. She was actually the first guest on M. Rada's new podcast. Not to mention, she also did a really amazing episode for Jay Shetty's podcast, worth a listen, friends.
Check it out if you haven't already. Okay, moving on to an OG in the social media game, Jaboukie Young White.
With his wry sense of humor and sharp social commentary, the comic has been a Twitter legend for years, and now he's making history in Hollywood.
Some of the main themes are definitely family, being true to yourself, and our responsibility to ourselves, to each other, and to the world.
Where in the world are we? Ethan, you brought the dog?
Sorry! Joining an A-list cast featuring Jake Gyllenhaal, Gabrielle Union, and Dennis Quaid in the animated flick Strange World, Jaboukie breaks barriers, playing the first openly gay lead in a Disney film.
Ethan is just kind of coming into himself and realizing a lot of things about himself, like any 16-year-old. I think you can really expect adventure.
Well, I wouldn't yell if you were actually trained.
He is trained. He hasn't been in the house for the last 2 days. It's the comedian's big break on the big screen following years of cultivating a cult following online. Jaboukie, you are one of many stars who got huge recognition online before making the leap into film and TV. How did that journey help inform your character of Ethan?
Wow, that's a great question. I started doing stand-up in 2012, and I think the social media stuff kind of came 6-7-ish years ago. So I had kind of been well on my way, kind of working in less visible sort of way, like in dark bars and stuff, before I was kind of on social media doing that.
Do you mind if I call you Splat?
What Ethan is coming to in this story is coming into his own in a way that he's not under the eye of everyone around him, because he kind of is having his own journey. I think it brought a lot to the project in ways that I can't explain, in ways that are just intangible.
Suffice to say, Jaboukie's journey is at an exciting crossroads.
That's a classic Oliver Babel exchange.
Nabbing roles on shows like Only Murders in the Building and films like Come On, Come On.
It has felt like a really long journey, even though it seems very like one-to-one, but it took a lot of work in a way that wasn't necessarily as visible as social media is to get to this point.
Okay, it's time to talk about a Canadian taking over TikTok, May Pang.
She is on a mission to challenge conventional beauty standards, and she tells me few experiences are more validating in that regard than a cosign from Rihanna.
TikTok is one of those beautiful social platforms that has the ability to change somebody's life. To see you do your thing so authentically yourself and then be named an originator, that's amazing.
Besides it being such a complete and total honor, it also felt really validating as well to be named an originator.
Using my tattoos as a maze.
I came from a small town where I felt as a first-generation Canadian that I didn't necessarily fit in, and I took that as an opportunity to start my new path. You know what? Nothing's written out for me. Let's do it myself, and here we are, and it feels good.
Carving her own lane in the beauty space, May makes TikTok's 2022 Discover list, but the platform has helped her discover herself.
I hid the fact that I was bald, and I hid the fact that I had tattoos away from my family for years. When I finally showed them, I remember the first thing my father saying is, "Oh, I can see your beautiful face now." It just clicked for me.
If you want a little bit of inspiration, stunning. We love to see it.
My first kind of breakthrough moment is when I first posted a photo of me with a shaved head. And I think that was a little bit different for the time. So I started putting myself out there with makeup. I was pretty trash when I first started, but everyone's gonna learn from somewhere.
The fact that you're saying you were trash at makeup and now look at you, anything is possible, friends.
And pursuing her passion has led to some pretty unbelievable opportunities.
Like, I don't know, walking in a certain runway show? I mean, Savage Fenty, I mean, Rihanna, like it's all just so massive.
It was the best moment, the best time I've ever had on a photo shoot or a runway, and it was my first runway too.
I've never been invited to one before, so I have no idea what to wear.
We're gonna do it, and it's gonna be okay, because Rihanna says it's fine.
If Riri says you're perfect as you are, come on in.
I know, everyone's gotta talk nice to me now. I've been on the Savage Fenty show, like, that, done and dusted.
On to another inclusion on TikTok's 2022 Discover list. Kyron Potts, the Indigenous changemaker, tells Traci how he's using the platform to educate and inspire a whole generation.
You are so huge on TikTok. What was the initial catalyst?
I was down in the dumps, and I had a lot of people, specifically my nieces, telling me like, "Uncle, you gotta get on TikTok." And when I went on there, I saw how great the native TikTok community was, and I was just hooked from there.
And now Kyron shares meaningful, moving posts about Canada's Indigenous communities with his followers around the world.
I am a first-generation survivor of the residential school system, and I experienced my own trauma going through the Child and Family Services system.
This kind of stuff isn't taught in school and in Canadian curriculum. People seeing that on TikTok and being like, wait a second, you know, I didn't know this. That's exciting.
With over 200,000 followers and growing, they're making a big impact.
I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot of the time. Meaning that when I'm in these situations or I'm getting the attention that I'm getting, I sometimes feel like I don't deserve it or that it could be going to somebody else. But through this process of just doing all of this, I've learned that it's okay to take up space.
I think imposter syndrome is something that we all have at various moments in our journey. I use that sometimes just to fuel me. And it's on all of us to educate ourselves for a better tomorrow.
If you feel uncomfortable by anything that I've shared, then good. Discomfort is where we grow.
Where do we go from here? Because if somebody's starting these conversations, it could be re-traumatizing.
Absolutely. Don't wait for an Indigenous person to tell you what the history was like in this country. Do it yourself. Go out and get educated. As Canadian citizens, you kind of have a moral obligation to understand the lands that you're inhabiting as a colonial settler. So that's why I'm always really selective with how I share my trauma. I make sure that if I'm going to share it, it's worth it for me, and that it's actually going to be, the wheels will continue to spin and we're going to be moving. We're not just spinning.
And Kyron's TikTok is anything but a drag. You briefly brought up makeup, and your drag persona is Pepsi. So any chance that we're going to see you on Canada's Drag Race Season 4?
Never say never, right?
Okay.
All the amazing queens on Drag Race, and so seeing them get to live their truth and have so much fun, it's hard not to want to be a part of it.
Next up is Drew Afualo. With nearly 8 million followers on TikTok, her message of inclusivity and positivity has clicked with fans. But it's how she hilariously handles negativity that defines her brand.
Here's 3 beauty trends of women that we men really don't like.
I don't need to see anything else. Thank you so much.
She's known for shutting down haters and setting the stage for a new age through TikTok and her podcast, The Comment Section, where she opens up about handling the hate online. But first, she had to find her voice.
Congrats on growing such a wicked community on TikTok. What made you initially go on the platform, and what's it been like to see it grow over the last couple years?
I was working for the NFL prior to TikTok. My boyfriend actually encouraged me. He was like, well, maybe it could just be a creative outlet for you because I like to make people laugh.
But it's not all about Drew. She's aiming to make her podcast as inclusive as possible with creators from all walks of life.
Every single creator I've had on my show has been hand-selected by me because I genuinely enjoy their content. I think they're so important to the platform. I think representation is so important.
But if you bring the hate, prepare to get called out and shut down with Drew's signature witty rebuttals.
I built my platform off hate. So getting hate, getting criticism, which just comes with the nature of the territory. Cool guy.
Despite backlash from the bowels of the internet, Drew says that meeting fans in person is always a highlight. But it's the messages she gets from fellow Polynesian women that strike a different chord.
I've met countless Polynesian women who have never seen anybody who looks like them. Those are all things that move me so deeply, and they keep me going when the load gets heavy. And it does, the very nature of the content I make is a heavy load to carry by myself. But it is one I'm happy to do so, especially when I get to hear stories like that from people who follow me. Women need validation to survive. Yeah, who needs food and water?
Let's jump right in with Canadian Kat Callahan, who you know as Jessie, the unofficial voice of TikTok.
And when she recently revealed her identity, the internet was speechless.
I just asked if we had met before. It's because I know your voice, but I've never actually had the pleasure of meeting you.
Finally, I can tell you guys, it is me.
Once I put that first TikTok out, which was just blew up, and I did not expect that at all. It was kind of almost one of those there's no turning back now moments. I'm like, okay, they know now.
In a very meta twist, the voice behind TikTok suddenly became a face of TikTok, amassing millions of views and hundreds of thousands of followers in days.
Sometimes you guys make me say some pretty horrendous things.
Now people are like, wait a minute, that voice that we all know and love is an actual person. What's that feeling like for you now?
Oh my gosh, it's nice. You say that people know and love me, but it wasn't love at first listen. Only because Jessie, my alter ego, as I put it, is such a happy person, and that's not for everyone.
No chance. No. If this voice photo works, I'm calling my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, and freaking out. Well, I don't know if my voice grew on people or people just decided, yeah, we like this kind of upbeat sound, and more people used it. So hence why I just decided, okay, I'll let people know that I'm her.
When not voicing your TikToks, Kat hosts a radio show in Kitchener, but she hopes you'll hear her voice elsewhere very soon enough.
Man, I'd love to get on board doing something in animation. That would be like a dream gig for me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I apologize, but you have to put it out there.
Tyrone, are we manifesting something right now? I love this. Honestly, anything like a Simpsons or Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane, if you're watching this somehow, that'd be cool too. I think that would be pretty amazing.
Megan Stalter has a knack for cracking up audiences on social media, on stage, and on screen, most notably as Kayla on Hacks. And she tells us how the series hits close to home.
One of my favorite scenes of the show is when Jean is saying to Hannah, like, it takes more than just, hard work. You have to really, love it and claw your way to the top.
Even if you're great and lucky, you still have to work really hard. And even that is not enough.
When I first moved to Chicago and I couldn't even get on a show, I was like, oh, I'm finally living my dream. But I do think you have to really be in love with the process of all of this.
Hello.
Hi. What?
I'm back.
Along with her breakout performance in Hacks, Megan's known for her hilarious sketch and character work on social media.
I have this really lovely blush that just goes with everything. Mark. The dogs?
And this includes satirical, over-the-top portrayals of the stereotypical influencer.
We're gonna be going to Ripley's, believe it or not, today, and I bet they're gonna let us in free because they recognize us.
And the internet's obsession is real.
I think some of my favorites are during quarantine. I was in Ohio for a long time with my family. My siblings are the funniest people in the world, way funnier than me.
Ow!
We were playing these twins that something was a little off. On that video, someone commented exactly where we live. They were like, oh my God, you're at, it was impressive that they knew, but creepy.
No matter the platform, Megan's taking off, with lots of big roles on the horizon, including one with comedy genius Judd Apatow.
I feel just really lucky. I feel like the luckiest girl in America and Canada and Mars. All of his movies are my favorite movies. And then to be getting to work with him on something, it's blows my mind.
Toronto's own Dante Colley exploding in popularity during the pandemic. Dante's dancing brought some much needed positivity to our feeds, and he tells us how he's grown as a creator.
The dance that I do is Dante style. It's all me and it feels good, and I'm open to learning more as well.
With over 1 million followers, his videos have amassed 26 million likes on social media, and his star only continues to shine.
It's been a journey, and it's been a long time since I've been sharing myself on the internet, and it's transcendent. It's my meditation. It makes me feel good. It's just my thing. We all have ours, and it's just something that I'm grateful to share.
Now Dante's content has transitioned from daily inspiration to showing off his skills as a choreographer, replicating choreo from iconic music videos.
I'm growing and I'm changing, and we all are going to go through our phases where things aren't going to resonate like how they used to before, and that's okay. Since a young age, I've always wanted to dance with the artists that I've loved, and it's important for me to create a community and amplify the artists that I've loved growing up and show this next generation what it is that inspired me to inspire them. The celebs on my choreography bucket list would definitely be Beyonce and Rihanna. Those are my two favorites that I one day will get the opportunity to dance with them for sure.
And while he works towards those ultimate A-list goals, he's got a lot of big things on the way.
I would say just stay tuned. There's a lot of fun things that I'm working on that I can't wait to share, but for right now, I'm doing what I love.
Fingers crossed it's an appearance in Rihanna's halftime show, but one thing's for sure, Dante, you're doing great, sweetie. Well, that's a wrap on Etalk Presents Influenced, but let me just say that I, for one, am relieved to see there's still some good in the online world.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of toxicity on the internet, but it's refreshing to find folks like Drew, Dante, and the rest who are so uplifting and inspiring.
We need more of them. Shout out to all of tonight's stars and everyone who joined us.